Okay, so it's absolutely clear now to everyone who's not completely blinded by hatred of Donald Trump, and it's even clear to lots of people who can't stand Donald Trump, that the United States legal system is being used against him in a campaign of political lawfare by the Democratic Party and their appointees in state judiciaries, in law enforcement, and in departments of justice to stop him becoming president again. This week, a New York court judge ordered the former president to pay more than $350 million and barred him from serving on a top role of any New York company for 3 years. What was the crime for this massive penalty, which could eat up all the cash that Trump has on hand to run his businesses and put thousands of jobs at risk? That he overstated the value of his properties in bank loan applications so that he'd maybe get a lower interest rate from the banks. All of this happened long before he became president, and it was a victimless crime. Did he do what was alleged? Well, probably not much beyond what was normal practice at the time, but enough to get a conviction if you're a Democrat Attorney General deliberately going after a political opponent. One of the lending banks who would have been the victim of this terrible crime, the massive German bank Deutsche Bank, assumed from its own analysis of Trump's properties that his net worth was billions lower than what his statements said. No representatives of the bank testified that they would have priced the loans any differently as a result. Bank employees, in fact, testified that they longed for Trump's business. So there's no victim here, just political lawfare. And that is the problem. Not only is the guilty verdict a bit of a sham, but the penalty is off the charts in terms of fitting the crime. The penalty has to be paid within 30 days. Trump has to find that cash, equal to more than $500 million Australian dollars. He can appeal the decision, but he still has to front up the money first and then fight to get it back later. No right-minded person could possibly look at this and say, oh, that's normal, that's fair, that has nothing to do with politics. It is an obscene and obvious abuse of power, far worse than anything Trump could ever have done. And it brings into disrepute the legal system itself in the United States and certainly in the state of New York. Those responsible for this should face charges of election interference and egregious abuse of power. The Attorney General of New York State is an elected position in America. It's a political position, and it's currently held by this woman, Letitia James, whose politics are as modern left-wing as you can get. Here's her campaign pitch on the left-wing Now This website from back in 2019.
America is an uncharted territory. We are angrier and more deeply divided than we've ever been at any point in our history since the Civil War. And at the eye of the storm is Donald Trump, ripping families apart, threatening women's most basic rights. I'm running for Attorney General because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. From the Muslim ban to efforts to deport immigrants, to denying transgender students the ability to choose whatever bathroom they want, rolling back regulations to protect our planet, colluding with foreign powers, putting profits over people, dividing us in ways we haven't seen in generations. I believe that this president is incompetent. I believe that this president is ill-equipped to serve in the highest office of this land. And I believe that he is an embarrassment to all that we stand for. He should be charged with obstructing justice. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses. And we would join with law enforcement and other attorneys general across this nation in removing this president from office. In addition to that, the office of Attorney General will continue to follow the money because we believe that he's engaged in a pattern and practice of money laundering the money from foreign governments here in New York State, and particularly related to his real estate holdings. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
Wow. Okay. So you can see what's going on here. That's the Attorney General of New York in her campaign video before she was elected to be the Attorney General. So the former president will definitely get a fair go in New York State. Anyway, the business community in New York are not impressed. Multi-billion-dollar US investor Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank has reacted furiously to the Trump verdict. He says he and many others won't be putting up with this sort of politicization of the courts in New York and will simply just pull their money out of the state.
Do you think any foreign institution or any private equity firm or any pension fund would touch New York? No. And that's why New Yorkers should be concerned. The fine people of New York should ask themselves, why are we such a loser state? How are we going to attract business? It's not just the existing businesses that are fleeing out to Texas and Florida. What about new money like this that I'm talking about, like a $4 billion data center? Not a chance I would put that in New York. Zero probability, never. And so they've got a lot of work to do to find themselves getting out of this situation. This has all occurred post-pandemic. Winner states versus loser states. Look at Tennessee right now, fastest growing city in America, Nashville. Winner state, good policy, competitive taxes. You've got to start thinking about this in the context of winners and losers. New York, mega loser state.
That's investor Kevin O'Leary pulling no punches there on Fox News Business about the message New York has sent to the world with this Trump verdict of theirs. The New York Attorney General, Letitia James, was busy virtue signalling like crazy at the news conference after the verdict.
Today, justice has been served. Today, we prove that no one is above the law. No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Oh, that's beautiful. So honourable, so noble. Yeah, it all sounds lovely and nice. But as Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, told Fox News, it's just a little bit hypocritical.
Nobody is above the law. I would just like these left-winging DAs and AGs to show us that. Show us that. I'm inviting you to show me that no one is above the law while we have Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and all of his friends up in D.C. and the deep state that have not been touched. Everyone is above the law if they're friends with Miss James, if they're friends with D.A. Bragg, and if they're friends with Fani Willis and Jack Smith. The only person that is not, the only person who did nothing wrong but will still get persecuted and prosecuted is President Trump because they can't beat him in November.
That's Trump's attorney, Alina Habba. She says despite the obscene level of fine and the demand to pay it in just 30 days, it will not lead to the destruction of the Trump empire, as the New York Attorney General obviously hopes.
It's not going to work, number one. Number two, what they're doing is a scare tactic. Unfortunately, they picked the wrong guy to pick on, in my opinion, because he's strong, he's resilient, and he happens to have a lot of cash. Now, that doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean it's okay. It's grotesquely insane. I was speaking to somebody today that actually mentioned that there are countries that literally make that in a given year in certain industries, countries in this world, but they would find somebody for what they call understating their statement of financial condition and making Deutsche Bank and Zurich, who, by the way, they still work with, money. But they're going to find him that kind of thing. It's absolutely insane. No, there will be no mayhem for the Trump organization, unfortunately. I know that probably was Miss James's goal and Judge Engoron, but that is not going to be the case.
Ouch. Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, speaking to Fox News in the US a couple of days ago. We'll keep you updated on all the lawfare attacks on Donald Trump in the coming months as things progress. One thing is for sure, all this is doing is making him more popular and stronger in the polls. So utterly stupid are the left in America. It's a pity the Democrats can't focus on winning in the actual election by putting up a candidate who's not suffering dementia, maybe.